Hey, what's up, guys? Happy Monday. Hope you had a great weekend and wishing you the best week ever. Hope you guys have a wonderful week ahead of you. Um, let's jump into it, man. I'm not taking calls, but I just wanted to talk for a few minutes about some things we saw this weekend, some things coming up, and anything else you guys would like to talk about, just jump in on the chat. It's an impromptu video, so I got no script here. I'm just going off the cuff. I got a few minutes. Both the girls are down taking a nap, and I was like, "Oh, I got some time. Let me get on here and chat." So, okay, this weekend, Jaron Boots Ennis scores a dominant victory over David Avanesyan. I don't think anybody's surprised at him winning or the way he won. Like I said, he was dominant, stops him. But it was his debut outing since signing with Matchroom Boxing. And Matchroom Boxing very intelligently, very smartly put this fight on in Jaron Boots Ennis' hometown of Philadelphia. And there was a good crowd. It was I can't remember the exact number off the top of my head, but I want to say it was well over 10,000. Um, so it was a good crowd, and they sold a lot of tickets at full price. There's always comp tickets and stuff like that. There's a certain level of papering that goes on at every event, but pretty much it was a full house, and the overwhelming majority of the tickets were sold. So very, very strong first outing for Ennis. And then he follows it up. I want to show this tweet that he posted, and I'll read it for you guys on the audio. But Jaron Ennis tweeted, and he actually tweeted this today. Really, wow, just about 90 minutes ago. He said, Avanesyan is a warrior. Much respect to him and his team for accepting this fight and helping the show go on. I hope he's healthy and everything is okay with him. Blessings to him and his family. He'll be back. So I wanted to show that because, by the way, I retweeted that and I just said that, that's a super classy move. Super classy move. So you follow up this great showing that you have in your hometown where you sell a lot of tickets, you're dominant. And look, he didn't fight an elite level guy. Okay, let's keep things in perspective. We'll talk about all that. But he did what he was supposed to do. He dominates the fight. And then after it, he shows humility and class. So you can be classy in defeat. You can be classy in victory. You can also be classless in defeat and classless in victory. We see plenty of examples of all those things all the time in sports, not just in boxing. So I just thought that was a very, very smart, classy thing for him to do, for Boots to do. I should mention it was a 5th round stoppage. Avanesyan was down in round 5. And so, okay, the question now is, what's next? What's next? Well, I do know this. Turki Al Sheikh has mentioned, he's been very, very vocal, public about this, that he would love to see a fight between Ennis and Terence Crawford. Now, of course, Terence Crawford currently is at 154 pounds. He just moved up. He's going to fight Israel Madrimov next month. If he's successful in that fight, then I believe he'll have one. Actually, I think there's 2 world titles on the line, or maybe one of them's an interim belt. I can't remember off the top of my head. I want to say there's a vacant belt on the line in that fight. Anyway, he's going to have a belt at 154. So they're in 2 different divisions. And right now, Ennis has a belt at 147, right, at welterweight. But Turki Al Sheikh throws around a lot of money, and money talks. And I would say it is quite possible if Crawford looks really good against Madrimov, maybe a fight between him and Ennis can happen if Turki Al Sheikh puts up enough money. If he puts up enough money, this is prize fighting. The guys will fight. Other than that, though, what can Ennis do from here? Let's I'm gonna pull up his resume. We'll take a quick look here on BoxRec. Let me scroll down. So he's 32-0, 27 years old, out of Philly. I'm going to go all the way down here to when he went pro. So he went pro in 2016. Okay, and I'm just looking here. How many fights in his first year? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 fights in his first year in 2016. That's a lot. 2017, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 fights in 2017. Even in 2018, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fights. And then it slows down. And by 2019, he was fighting twice a year. Now, he did fight 3 times a year in 2020, which is pretty impressive given everything that happened that year. But other than that, he's been a twice-a-year fighter recently, right? He fought twice in 2021. He fought just once in 2022, and then twice in 2023. So, and then I'm looking at the locations of these fights. It's all the usual places that particularly the platform that he was with before where they fight. A lot of casinos, the Ballroom, Boardwalk Hall, Atlantic City. This was actually, he had a fight in DC. He had a fight in California. But again, I see Mandalay Bay here, Las Vegas. I see the Mohegan Sun Casino several times, Ocean Resort Casino. So he was fighting. The last time he fought in Philly, if I scroll down here, was 2017 when he was fighting, I don't know what journeyman level, not even journeyman level guys, prospect, showcase level guys. And that was his last fight in Philly. So the people that were managing his career and the platform that he was fighting on in recent years just didn't do him any favors, and they didn't build him up. I mean, he's a contender. I mean, I know he has a belt, but I'm just looking at, Ennis versus the elite. I'd call him a contender at this point in that regard. And he's as ready as he's ever going to be. But has he really been developed? How well has he developed with his last promotion? Not very well. And the promotion that he was fighting on in recent years, the platform is a sinking ship. I mean, don't take my word for it. Just look at what's been going on with them. Look at their schedule right now. It's a sinking ship. He got off that sinking ship, and now he's on a rising ship. Okay. With a rising tide. A rising tide lifts all ships, right? Matchroom boxing. 10 years ago, when you thought matchroom boxing, you thought UK. You would think English fighters, UK fighters. That's pretty much it. Now when you think matchroom boxing, you think global. They have represented some of the biggest, actually the biggest names in the sport in recent years, or worked with them, partnered with them. They are the reason Canelo Alvarez is the undisputed super middleweight champion. It's Matchroom that did that, right? So Anthony Joshua, obviously a massive brand there in England, but they've represented and worked with and partnered with fighters from all over the world, and that's going to continue. So that is a rising ship that Ennis is now a part of. And whatever his full potential is, I think he will realize it with Matchroom. It was a very, very smart move for him to go in that direction when there was probably pressure on him to go with certain platforms. He made a really, really intelligent move by not doing that. I think you have to have long-term vision and see down the road past like a huge payday that's being offered to you up front and see, okay, 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, which path leads me to greener pastures? And I think he made the right choice. So brings us back to the question, what's next? Let me pull up, show my, or our, I should say, welterweight rankings here at Ring Magazine. Let me pull this up. All right. So can you guys see? I need to scroll down. Okay. Right there. Okay. So right now, the Ring Magazine champion is Terence Crawford at welterweight. Well, obviously, we know that that's not going to last very long because in a few weeks, he's going to fight at 154. So that's going to be vacant. All his belts that he currently has are going to be blown up. Errol Spence Jr., a lot of you guys would ask, why the hell is he on this rankings at all? Well, our policy at Ring is somebody has to be inactive for a year before they get removed. So it's just like Crawford being a champion, his championship won't go away until he fights at 154. So these rankings are going to change very, very quickly. Both Crawford and Spence won't be on here in a matter of weeks. So that pretty much means Jaron Ennis by default is going to be seen by most platforms as the number one welterweight in the world. The problem is if you look at this division, it's dead. I shouldn't use the word dead. There's some interesting fights, but there's nobody there that I think gives Ennis a serious, serious problem. It's going to be hard to do a fight between Ennis and Stanionis because he's with the former platform. Same thing with Mario Barrios. Brian Norman Jr. is on there. That could potentially be an interesting fight, but there's just not many names. I should also mention, and you guys saw it. You guys saw the size difference in the ring. Ennis is a huge welterweight. He's another one of these guys that makes a really unnatural weight, and it's obvious to me that he's going to be at 154 quite soon. So let's pull up the ratings at 154, because I think, a year or so down the road, that's what we're talking about, right? So 154, and again, I'm looking at Jermell Charlo, and I know I can hear the groans from from you guys. Yeah, Jermell Charlo shouldn't even be on there. He will be removed soon enough. We got to go by the policy that is set, and he has to be out for a certain amount of days before he gets removed. Anyway, so the number 3 guy in the division, Israel Madrimov, that's who Terence Crawford's about to fight, right? So we're going to see that. There's some interesting names at 154. Tim Tszyu's a big name. If Charlo ever fights again and his platform would be willing to work across the street, that could be an interesting fight for Ennis. Same thing with Fundora, who now has a couple of belts. Sergey Bohacek, he has a big fight coming up, possibly. Erickson Lubin's another interesting name that's still there. Charles Conwell could be an interesting fight. So there are some interesting potential matchups for Ennis at 154. I think that's where he's going to have to go to get the big fights. And that's where a lot of people would say, well, why didn't you just stay with your previous platform? Because had he done that, a lot of these names I mentioned are with that platform. It's going to be hard for him to get fights against those guys if he doesn't, if he's not signed with them, because they don't like working across the aisle. I'm pulling up the 160 ratings here, and there's just not a whole lot there. Honestly, there's just isn't. I hear you. I think that's a legitimate point. If some of you guys are thinking that, but Matchroom works well with certain sanctioning organizations, and they, I think, will work Ennis up in the mandatory status somewhere and get him at least a title belt. And then from there, you can negotiate. But also, Turkey El Sheikh, he's kind of the X factor in the sport right now. When he really wants a fight, he'll throw out an obscene amount of money to get it. And the promoters will work together, because they'll basically be like, well, damn, this is just free money being thrown at us. Okay. And we've seen it. We've seen it multiple times in recent years, right? Guys that normally would never go across the street have done it multiple times because they're getting a boatload of money thrown at them. So that's possible here. If he stays at 147, because, it's very likely he may stay there for a while. As I mentioned, there's no big names. I think they got to pull a page from Gennady Golovkin's book. Yes, I'm going to bring up Triple G, mid 2010s, the run that he went on, where he's fighting 3 or 4 times a year, lining guys up, knocking them down. Do that with Ennis this year. It's July. There's absolutely no reason he can't be back in the ring by like October, November, maybe late October, early November, right before like Thanksgiving and all that. You could absolutely get him back in the ring this year. And then starting next year, 3-4 times a year, line him up, knock him down, line him up, knock him down. He's going to have a mandatory once a year. You knock that out. And then a few optional defenses. It's not going to be big names. And take him back to Philly. Take him back to Philly. Take him back to Philly over and over, once or twice a year in Philly. And then you can sell out to the casinos for one fight a year and get that guaranteed site fee and all that if you want. Also, Matchroom can bring him over to the UK. Now, the only thing, there's no UK welterweights. That's the only thing. I don't know. What about a fight between Ennis and Chris Eubank Jr.? Could that work? I mean, Eubank right now is technically at 160. Could that work? I don't know. That could be interesting. I know it'd sell in the UK, but I'm just looking at our ratings from 147 through 160. The only guy on there, the only UK fighter in the top 10 in those divisions right now is Eubank Jr. So not a whole lot of options in terms of names. Just keep him busy. And if you're Ennis, keep dominating, keep stopping these guys, keep styling on them. That's what you have to do to build up the brand, the momentum for him to get the big fights. And down the line, it might take 3, 4, 5 years. He will get a big fight. It will happen if you create that demand. That's what I want to see them do with him. Back to the hometown thing, because I have a big international audience. In fact, the bulk of my audience is outside of America. And I think a lot of you guys in other regions of the world don't quite understand how different the American market is versus other countries. America is a massive country. It really is. It's several countries put together, and there's completely different cultures and terrain and everything just all over. Okay. So it's important. It's an important part of the health of American boxing, the industry, to have brands that can sell in their hometown. It's very important. And it's not just enough to show up and fight in Philly and say, I'm from Philly, so everyone come out and watch my fight. I'm representing Philly. No, you have to build that brand. You can kind of do that in other parts of the world. I'm not trying to trivialize it, but I'm just saying it's if you get a guy from a certain part of England fighting a guy from another part of England, there's kind of some regional pride on the line, right? And the crowd will be like 50-50. The thing is, these people all live within a few hours drive of each other. It's not a 6-hour flight from each other, right? Which really can be like that here in America. So building up name brands in hometowns is super duper important. There are only so many fighters that can fight anywhere and draw a crowd. There are only so many guys like that. Canelo Alvarez, Gervonta Davis has proven that he can sell tickets like that. There's a few guys, okay? But having a guy fight in his hometown used to be very common in American boxing. It's not that Vegas fights didn't happen, because they did. I mean, I think back to my childhood, some of the biggest fights in the 80s and 90s were in Vegas. They were at the casinos. Okay, all the big fights, they're going to go to the casinos a lot of times because you're not only getting that built-in site fee, but you can price way more for tickets. It may sound crazy to you guys, but you can do a much bigger gate in front of 15,000 at MGM Grand in Vegas than, let's say, in front of 60, 70,000 at AT&T Stadium in Dallas. It sounds crazy, right? But it's the truth, because you could charge so much more for tickets. And then there's a lot of different sponsorship money and just different things that come into play when you're dealing at the casinos. And it's been that way for quite a while. So big fights happened in Vegas when I was a kid, right? Like Thomas Hearns. I remember him going to Vegas and fighting multiple times, but he still fought in Detroit too, right? Guys would fight 4, 5, 6 times a year, and at least one of those fights would be in their hometown, or at least their home region, wherever. It may not be where they grew up, but it's where they were based. It's now where they, trained and lived and all that good stuff. You saw that all the time, Oscar De La Hoya made sure he fought in Southern California often. So did Shane Mosley, right? Just a couple names to throw out there. And so I would say in the 2000s through the 2010s, that got lost a little bit. You started to see a lot less of that. And you started to see these promoters just go right to the casino because there was guaranteed money in it for them. And they didn't have to really promote as much because the casino would do a certain amount of promotion for the event, because they're trying to get the whales in there to spend money, right? So there was a lot of just, hey, let's just take this to the casino, right? And then a lot of times you think casino, you think Las Vegas, but there's all these other parts of the country that have casinos, like places you'd never probably want to go to otherwise. And they put fights there. And, one promotion in particular was pretty famous for doing that right here in America. So now I think you're seeing somewhat of a return to people trying to build up name brands in their hometown. And I think Matchroom is going to try to do that with Ennis and Philly. They're off to a great start. Again, if I were them, I'd bring them right back to Philly, late October, early November, get him in there against another guy, Avanesyan's level, somewhere in there. Even if he's not a top 10 guy, give him a top 20 guy. It's going to be a showcase. Make the ticket prices reasonable so that people show up, get 10, 15,000 people to show up, keep that momentum going. And he could be a success story. You know, he could be an American boxing success story. Now, we don't know what's going to happen when Ennis fights the elite. Why? Because he hasn't been developed very well. He has seen every style and all that, but he hasn't been in there with anyone so far that could really test him. So we just don't know. We won't know till we know. Can he take a big shot from a guy who can punch? Um, can he dig deep, you know, stamina wise? If there's a guy who ain't going away and is charging him late in a fight and surging, how does he respond to that? We don't know. We won't know till we know. But between from now to that point, I think that there's a lot of interesting options for him if Matchroom does the right thing. And I love the fact that they're building a guy up in his hometown. Okay, one more thing to look at. Let's check out the schedule real quick, guys. It's kind of dead for a few weeks here. Pull this up, share it. Give ESPN Boxing a plug. This is their I don't know if you guys can see this if I scroll. Oh, you can't see it. Yeah, okay. Well, let me take this off the screen. I'll just read it to you. I'm looking at the schedule here, and this weekend there's a card in Indio, California on the Zone. Alexis Rocha fighting there. Tokyo has a fight. Junto Nakatani this Saturday in Tokyo. ESPN Plus. Kosei Tanaka is on that fight, that card as well. And then in Tampa, Florida, Jake Paul fighting Mike Perry. Amanda Serrano is on that card as well. Let's see. There's a fight card in Australia. Now, what next weekend? We have in London, Joe Joyce versus Derek Chisora. Wow, Derek Chisora is still going. Whew. And then we have a fight card in Detroit. Clarissa Shields fighting in Detroit next weekend. We have another fight card in Japan. Yeah, the next big fight card is August 3rd, Los Angeles, the Zone pay-per-view. Israel Madrimov defending his WBA Super Junior middleweight title against Terence Crawford. Andy Ruiz versus Jarrell Big Baby Miller. You know, on the surface, if that fight was made a few years ago, I think people would look at Ruiz as a big favorite. And then you consider that Miller is coming off a really, really bad loss, or he got the shit beat out of him. But Ruiz has been so inactive and so inconsistent. A lot of people are looking at that as a close competitive fight. Isaac Cruz versus Jose Valenzuela. David Morrell versus Radivoji Kalajic. I probably butchered that name. Jared Anderson, Martin Bacole. That's another one that's kind of interesting. On the surface, Anderson should be a big favorite, but he's kind of proven to be a little out there mentally and emotionally. How is it going to look in that fight? We'll find out. But Bacole has had some upset wins in his career. And then, so the week after that card, August 10th, Sergey Bohachuk versus Virgil Ortiz in Las Vegas on the Zone. I like that a lot. And then we have Jake Catterall versus Regis Prograis, August 24th. So we have some interesting fights in the month of August. And then down the road, a fight I'm looking forward to, September 21st in London, Daniel Dubois versus Anthony Joshua for Alexander Usyk's belt, the IBF belt. And then supposedly December 21st, right? We're going to get Usyk versus Fury, the rematch. So there's some fights to look forward to. Somewhere in the midst of all that, we're supposed to get Artur Beterbiev versus Dimitri Bivol, which will be a lot of fun, obviously. And that's going to, the winner of that fight, top 3-4 pound for pound fighter in the world. So that will be one to look forward to. So we got some interesting things coming up, particularly in the month of August. It's going to start, but I'd say the rest of this month, kind of dry. All right, let's go to the chat real quick. I'll get to a couple of you guys' questions and stuff, and then we'll leave it there. Let's see. Yeah, Grant G here says Boots looks like a super middleweight in there. Yeah, he's I don't know how he makes 147. I don't know how these guys make weight. I really, really don't. Yeah, some of these comments are interesting. Let's see. Larry says ceiling for Boots is probably 160. I'd say he's the best American upcoming fighter right now based on skill. He just needs a big fight with Stanionis or Norman Jr. for unification to legitimize him. Yeah, I just don't know if those could happen because there's not enough money in it. Turkey Al Sheikh has not mentioned any of those fights as far as like what he'd put money up for. And the promoter there, the platform there doesn't like to work across the aisle, especially with the guy who just walked away from their platform. That's going to hurt him. 1 foot out the door says his loyalty to PBC set him back. Hey, you said it, not me. You said it, not me. Jay Perez says, yes, he should be way ahead of where he is right now. He's clearly talented, but he still needs a lot of these fights against solid contenders to sharpen his skills. I agree. I agree, man. And I think, again, take a page out of what Tom Loeffler did with Triple G mid 2010s. Get him in the ring fighting, man. And, a lot of people, back to my point about hometown and casinos, during that whole run where Triple G was fighting 3-4 times a year, he was fighting at regular venues in regular towns. He was not fighting at casinos. Not one casino fight. The Vegas fight didn't happen until he got those Canelo fights. So before that, he was fighting mostly in and around Los Angeles, but also in New York. He fought over in Europe a couple times, I think Monaco. But, he was fighting in real places, and they developed him in those markets. And he's not from LA, but he became an LA fighter because he lived there, he trained there, and he ingratiated himself to the fans there, and they loved him. So he became an LA guy, and it just worked. It just really, really worked. And eventually he got the big fights against Canelo, right? It could be the same thing for Ennis. It could be. Larry Liston says joining Matchroom was the best move he made his entire career, in my opinion. They need a big U.S. star and aren't afraid of putting him in with the Sharks early on. I agree, Larry. I agree. H Money says Terence Crawford, ducking Jaron Ennis. Well, we'll see, man. We'll see. Again, if Crawford beats Madrimov, which that's not an easy task. Okay, that's going to be a tall order for him, but he should win that fight. Just if he is who we think he is. And then can Turkey Al Sheikh throw out enough money to convince the two of them to fight? It'd probably be over in Riyadh or something, but money talks, man. Money talks. Errol Spence, yeah, I don't put Errol Spence in the ring against Ennis. That'd end very badly for Spence. I don't like that fight. I don't even know if Errol Spence will ever fight again at this point. Between him and the Charlos and stuff, I just don't know what the hell is going on with a lot of those guys. Let's see. Larry says Boot should fight Lubin or Spence at 154. I don't know, man. Maybe Spence's promotion would be willing to cash out and do a fight with him at 154 against Ennis. I think that'd get pretty ugly for Spence, but it's possible. It's possible. All right. Interesting question here from Omar Rodriguez. In terms of talent, do you think Boots is just as talented as Shakur Stevenson? I got to say, I think he's more talented because Shakur Stevenson may be more skilled, especially defensively, at least from what we've seen so far. His skill set is really, really among the best out there with all the young fighters. But Boots seems to have more natural talent and athleticism to him. So that's how I would describe the difference between those two. Larry says international fans are going to like Boots. People from Mexico and the UK doesn't want to see runners like Haney and Shakur. They'd much prefer Boots or Tank. That's a great point, Larry. I didn't even think about it that way, but you're absolutely right. Shakur Stevenson, I haven't talked about him yet in this video, but he recently had a fight, and he's been getting slammed on social media. And what's crazy is he won every round of the fight. He dominated it, won clearly, but it's how he won. And if you look at it, Top Rank, I think it was his last fight with Top Rank, they set up a showcase type of fight for him, the way Matchroom just did for Boots in his hometown against Avanesyan. Top Rank did that for Shakur Stevenson in his hometown, and he stunk the joint out. His hometown fans were leaving the fight, and he's been getting ripped apart on social media. And instead of saying, all right, guys, I hear you, I'll do better next time, my bad, keep supporting me, blah, blah, blah. He's been saying, no, 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 you're the problem. You know, dissing fans, dissing other fighters, even going after like some 80-year-old rappers that have been talked about them in some podcasts I've never heard of. So like, he's handled that so poorly. And now that he's not with Top Rank, he doesn't have anybody coaching him or massaging his messaging. He's just letting it rip, and he's just destroying his brand, in my opinion, what little brand he had. Devin Haney, it's hard for him too because he's just not exciting, and he can't he can't be a weight bully anymore. He's really going to struggle. But Tank Davis, Boots Ennis, they haven't fought the elite. They haven't, but they are entertaining. They do what you're supposed to do in showcase type matchups, and that gets fans talking. And Larry, you talked about international fans. I'm talking about just American fans too, particularly the casual sports fan in America. They want to see domination. They want to see excitement. And the guys you mentioned, Boots and Tank, those are the two American fighters. And also, I'll bring up Bam Rodriguez too, that are doing that. So I think that's good. I think that's good for him. Okay. We got a comment here from El Negro. Oh, I don't even know what the hell the rest of Bembum. He says, difference is that Boots is a huge welter. Shakur is in his third division. He just doesn't have the power. That's a good point, man. That's a good point. I mean, Boots is a huge welterweight where he has a significant size and power and strength advantage against a lot of these guys. That is a very, very good point. But style matters, bro. Style matters, man. That's the thing in the amateurs. And I think one reason, I think I've talked about this recently, but one reason why a lot of these young American fighters are struggling at the box office, there's several, but one of them is, you know, in the amateurs, you're taught stay away, use your feet to get away from punches, cover up and block punches when you can, but use your feet first. Just get out of range, just back up and let the guy punch air, and then touch him with a jab, and then stay away. Touch with a jab, stay away. Poke to the body, stay away. Land 3 or 4 punches in a round, get the round. And guys learn how to win fights that way. They win tournaments that way. They get a trip to the Olympics that way. But when you translate that style into the pros, it does not work well. It just doesn't work well because you got to be entertaining and you got to hurt a dude. And Shakur Stevenson is so good at staying away and avoiding punches. He really is very, very good at that. But man, his style just ain't entertaining. Omar says, there's nothing I hate more than someone telling me what I should like, appreciate. That's such a great way to put it, Omar. You're absolutely right, man. Nobody has the right, and I'm not even just talking about boxing here. This is beyond boxing. Nobody has the right to tell you what you should like, what you should not like, what you should find funny or not funny, what you should find interesting or not interesting. Nobody has the right to tell you that. Those are personal things. There may be a joke I hear that I think is really, really funny. The person to the left or right of me might think is really, really unfunny. And that's okay. That's okay. There might be a fighter or a fighter style that I really like, that I appreciate, that somebody else doesn't. That's okay. But nobody has the right to be like, hey, you're supposed to like this. What the hell what are you talking about? I'm supposed to like this. I like what I like. I hear you, Omar. That's a great way to put it, man. El Negro Bembom says, good try, Mike. LOL. Yeah, I didn't know. I tried. I'm not a very good reader. What does it say? Oh, God. Ceylon says, oh, okay. Well, I didn't know it meant that. So if that's true, then I'm sorry for even reading that name, dude. Okay. Okay. No, this guy says you're wrong, Ceylon. I don't know what the hell it means. Anyway, all right. One foot out the door says you can't force respect. Yeah, that's another good comment. Respect is earned. It's not something that's given. You can't force respect. You have to earn it. And that's what a lot of these young fighters got to learn, man. You got to be entertaining. It's not just winning. You have to be entertaining because you're charging people money to go. In the amateurs, you're not charging people. I know some amateur fights and stuff, you pay to get in. But it's $10, it's $20. It's not $500. When you're charging people a premium, man, you gotta be entertaining. You just have to be, right? So yeah. Okay. All right, guys. On that note, we are out of here. Just wanted to drop in really quick while I could, and I'll let you guys go. Have a great week. We'll do it again soon as I can get some free time. All right. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Give your mom a call. Tell your loved ones that you love them. All right, guys. Peace.